Hi, I'm TM Krishna and you're watching me on webindia123.com. I'm here to share some moments about my music, my life, my journey, and my experiences as a Carnatic musician, as somebody who's been practicing this from a very young age. I hope you enjoy it. My mother herself used to learn music, and when I was around 3 years old, she was learning music from Sitaram Sharma, who became my guru later. And apparently as a 3-year-old child, I showed a lot of interest in music, and I used to sit with her for her music classes. So I could say that her music classes in some ways served as an inspiration for me to take up music. My father was not a trained musician, he was a businessman. And our whole family has been very interested in Carnatic music, in classical arts, and a lot of musicians have been friends of our family. So I think music was there in the atmosphere, if not actually being practiced at home. So I guess that's where my whole journey in music started. I think any institution run by a trust or the J. Krishna Foundation has a difference. I think the greatest difference is that they don't believe in competition. I mean, this is a very interesting idea. Competition is not considered important for excellence. I know in today's world, people may think I'm talking off my hat, and because people believe that the best way you can do better is to compete. The best way the Indians can beat the Australians in cricket is, for example, to be as aggressive and as noisy and as brutal as possible to win. And somehow that's being propagated as the best way to live life. I mean, it's just, I think, in my honest opinion, very pathetic that we need to actually depend on somebody else's ability to do better. So I think this concept doesn't exist in that schooling. And I think that's been the greatest thing I absorbed from there. Is people always tell me, oh, you're a musician, the competition is very high. And I always say it's actually not. I mean, the reason being, there is enough space for me, there's enough space for you or 10 more people to sing. As long as you know that your quality is there and you know that what you're doing is honest and full of integrity, in the long run, people are going to accept it. As long as you know how to communicate it to them. You know to communicate your music and present it, they're going to accept it. Yes, there are so many more talented people, and yes, they are also great musicians. And it's not like you're competing against them. The moment you start competing against somebody, I think your abilities are very much diminished. I won't say that competition does not ever come into my mind. That's a lie. Of course it comes into my mind. But I know how to handle it. If I feel in that mode of thinking, I know the reality of it is not there, and it's just a momentary feeling, and the feeling is going to pass, and the only way I'm going to better or be excellent in what I'm doing is to actually believe that I can always grow irrespective of anybody around me. I think that's something I've really drawn from KFI, and I must thank them for that, because I can remain sane. That's another era of my life, which I can never forget. I was learning still from Sitaram Sharma sir, right from my childhood. 5 years I started learning from him, and I continued to learn from him. And what happened was, a concert of mine in one very small temple in Madras, Shammudi Mama was supposed to inaugurate the festival. And I went there early, and he was at the temple. And he told me, you know why I've come? I've come to listen to you. So I did namaskaram, and then he said, I will be there only for 1 hour because I'm not well. I said, fine. He pulled up a chair and came and sat very close to the stage. And that's it. I mean, you're so scared that you have somebody like Shammudi Srinivas sitting in front of you. But he never got up and went. He sat there for 2 hours. So since he knew my father and my family, as he was leaving the hall, he called my father and said, "You send him to me, I'll teach him," which was just a blessing. I mean, to even imagine that such a great man would offer to teach me was an honor. Learning from him was a very, very special experience. It's not just about the music. I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of compositions from him, yes, of course. But beyond that, just small tidbits on how this should be done, how that should be done, how this should be presented, how do we put that and this together, how was it in those days, how was the music he listened to. So if I went to his house at 10 o'clock for class, the official class will be for around an hour, and then the unofficial class will be for the next 3.5 hours. So I used to have lunch with him and come back home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was very lucky that I got so much love from such a great man. Because if I didn't go for 1 month, he would call me and say, "This is Shammaguri Srinivas here, an old man calling you, do you remember me?" So, that was the amount of love he had, and I felt very honored that that's the kind of relationship I had with him. And I think the amount of music and art and even about the culture of the music and how it's changed and how it was, I've learned from his ways. As far as Ragam Tanam Pallavi training was concerned, I did this around, I think, 95 or so, from Sri Chengalpet Ranganathan. Chengalpet Ranganathan is this very senior disciple of the Althur brothers, who were patented for their Ragam Tanam Pallavi singing. So I had this summer course I did with him, and the impact of that summer course which I did with him is unbelievable, and how much I learned to sing Ragam Tanam Pallavi presented has helped me a lot. I think the influence for me to believe in a tradition, believing in an art, I'll start with that, starts from the time of me being exposed to the greats in recorded music. It's not just me, but a lot of us together. And the amount of respect we got about the music and about the styles these people performed and about how they actually retained the qualities of the music, I think is where the first seed of being classical was embedded. My guru Sitaram Sharma sir, another person who was very strict, very real hard taskmaster. If I have to sing 100 times one line, I will sing it 100 times, and he will make sure I sing it 100 times. So that kind of discipline to what you're learning, that was also played a very big role in being very classical. And of course, I think my Shammaguri Mama's influence is there. But by the time I learned from Shammaguri Mama, I was already a performing artist, so I would say it's a little later. First, I think the basic misnomer, people believe that if you say you're traditionalist or if you say you're classical, they somehow think you're singing music that's 200 years old. I mean, if I say I'm a classical musician, I'm very classical in my approach, they think, oh, this guy sings old music. I mean, no way. I mean, is Carnatic music being sung today? It was sung in the 20s? Not at all. Do you think I sing any composition as it was sung by Arikudi Ramanujankar? No. Or he was singing like it was sung 50 years before him? No. So, to being classical does not mean you're in a time warp. Being classical means you respect a traditional form and the changes that have come with a traditional form. A tradition always changes. A tradition never remains constant. It's a very dynamic thing. A classical idiom, a traditional idiom keep on changing. And to be able to retain that link that is there in spite of the changes is being traditional. To cut that link is being non-traditional. So all I believe in is that thread. I believe that that thread is very important, that I retain that thread that is essential to Carnatic music. Does not mean that there are no changes in my music. There are changes in my music. But it's not so obvious as me singing with drums. If you believe that is change, I'm very sorry, that is the most nonsensical interpretation of change I've ever heard. But that's not change. I've had the opportunity to give leg dems for different audiences for different reasons, which is very interesting. I've go to the other end of I've given lecture demonstrations at Harvard University for ethnomusicology professors on a research project that myself and a colleague of mine are doing, which is reviving an archival. It's an archival project. So that's a very scientific, a very theoretical kind of a presentation. At the other end of the spectrum, I love giving leg dems on classical music to school children. I just love it, especially between 6 and 9, and in 6th class to 9th class, 10th class. And I've always enjoyed talking with kids, and that's been a totally different experience. Because one, you have to communicate in a different language. I think the main reason why we feel maybe students will not respond to classical arts is because we've not understood how to communicate it to them. I mean, you don't go to a teenager. If I was a teenager, I remember in school, none of my classmates were Carnatic music buffs. I was a Carnatic singer, upcoming singer at that point of time. But the main reason is because we tell them all the wrong things. First of all, we tell them that every other music is bad. I mean, that's the worst thing you can tell anybody when you want to show them something good, is that everything else is bad. You just basically tell them, you listen to Michael Jackson, he's the worst singer. You listen to so-and-so, you listen to film music, that's the worst thing. Only way you will listen to good music is if you listen to Carnatic music. And if you say that, the first thing a 15-year-old teenager will do will say, please go and jump somewhere. I'll stick with my music. So I think we need to communicate to children in a different language, in a language that they understand. First of all, Carnatic music is like any other music. It's a musical form. An Indian musical form, something we have to be proud of, and something we must try and understand and enjoy, like you enjoy everything else. It's not like I only listen to Carnatic music. I listen to film music. I enjoy film music. So I think that's why it's challenging. In fact, I would say it's much more challenging talking to that age group and keeping them engrossed in classical Carnatic music for 1.5 hours than talking to somebody who knows all the technicalities of music, because there the conversation is at a different level and it's quite easy to communicate. So that's always been fun. I mean, and I've always found that irrespective of the background of the child, I've given leg dems in the most elitist schools. I've given leg dems in economically very backward areas where you don't expect Carnatic music to be exposed. And yes, they didn't know, but the response has been so good. I mean, children who never knew the spelling of Carnatic music, at the end of the session were clapping and having fun with all of us on stage, which means we have to take the effort. It's in today's world, everything doesn't fall on your plate. You have to go and show it on somebody's face regularly. The only way somebody would remember your face is if you're always seen on a billboard or you're seen on television. That's the world we are in. So unless you keep putting Carnatic music on a platform, on the paper, on the television, people are going to forget. That's the world we live in. And that's why it's very important that we keep communicating. The inspiration for the book for both Bombay Jayashree and myself started around 2000. In 1999 December, to celebrate the millennium, we decided to do a Carnatic music millennium show, which was very interesting. So we had 7 generations of musicians participating. It was a show, it was not a concert. So you had unusual combinations of artists singing together. For example, Palghat K. V. Narayan Swami sang a 10-minute Jugalbandi with D.K. Pattamar, which is absolutely unusual. We had Shammagudi Srinivasayar, my guru, Shammagudi Mama, singing the prayer for that event. So you had 600 children singing at 12 o'clock midnight, Maitri and Bhajata together. You had 70 musicians of my generation performing together. So it was very interesting. And in that we also had like presentations on people and organizations that have changed Carnatic music in 100 years. And when we did that, we chose 7 artists. We happened to choose 7 to 8 artists. And post that event, and when Jayashree and I were talking about it, we found that among the whole community of Carnatic musicians in our generation, we had a similar view of these greats, which was very interesting, I mean, to find out. So we said, how do we present these greats? Unfortunately, if you ask any person about art, they know M.F. Hussain. They know M.S. Subbulakshmi as an exception, but they know Indian artists are celebrated in other art fields. Carnatic musicians are not celebrated as icons of our country. So we felt that we have to do something to celebrate these people as icons. Now, you look at that point of time, look at books for Carnatic music, or even now, for a large extent. It will be either very biographical, which house they lived in, how long they stayed, who were their best friends, blah, 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 blah. Or it's highly technical on how the knee in that raga should not be in this frequency, but a few frequencies less. Now, a normal reader doesn't want to read both. He doesn't want to know every nuantic detail of a day in a musician's life. At the same time, doesn't want to know such technicalities. So this book had to be presented in a different format. So first we said it's a coffee table book, which means there has to be visuals. Because a lot of times the visuals give away the personality of the person. So we said it has to be coffee table, it has to have rare photographs, handwritten manuscripts, it has to have notices of a concert in 1920, stuff like that. Along with a writing style, which is like a journey through their life. And through that you just see the personality of that person unfolding, and how the personality and the music have contributed to contributed to the changes in Carnatic music. And also we felt that our impressions, how they have affected us, was important. So this book has many layers. The basic layer is a kind of a story. Each is written in a different style, and there are 7 musicians we chose. M.S. Subbulakshmi, Arikudi Ramanajayangar, Shammagudi Srinivasayar, G.N. Balasubramaniam, Palghat Mani Iyer, Mali, Flute Mali, and Rajaratnam Pillai Nadasuram. We chose these 7, and each chapter is written in a style that's close to the character of the personality. So it's easy reading. It's not very tough reading. That's one layer. The other layer is the visual, which is a big layer because there are unbelievable photographs which people have never seen in their lives, and that's one layer. Another layer is we've also included things that have happened socially and politically in India around that period of time. If you look at the era of these people, it's around 1920s to about 1950s, end 50s. So what were the socio-political changes of those times that affected Carnatic music? So we took 9 incidences. For example, the nationalistic movement, the whole patriotic songs becoming important. The Devadasis, how they contributed to the retaining of culture in our society. I mean, if they were not there, we may not have had Carnatic music in Bharatanatyam. We have to owe it to them. Then look at the cinema, because a lot of Carnatic musicians acted. So how the cinema and the talkies played a role. Then you look at sabhas, organizational music, from kings and queens supporting to zamindars to organizational music. Stuff like this. Then the whole Tamil Isai movement, which was a very, very socially shaking event that happened, that kind of almost split Carnatic music fields into 2 halves. But I think it contributed in a way. So all these aspects have been included in the book. And in every chapter we also have our emotional responses to the music of these people, both Jayashree's and mine. We have not given our name against every comment, and everybody comes and asks us, who said this, who said that? So it's to keep people guessing. But it's both our combined responses to that music. So the whole book is hopefully an experience of Carnatic music of an era, and would take people through a completely new journey. Yes, there are so many more greats. Madurai Maniyar, Alathur brothers, M.D. Ramanathan, Ramnath, Krishna, I can just go on. But I'll just say one thing common about these seven. Why these seven go together. Not why other people don't come in, but why these seven go together. If you just look at the contribution of every one of these seven, you will find that the contribution has had an everlasting impact to the extent of today. Adikudi Ramanujan, today's concert format exists because what he did. M.S. Subbulakshmi, I traveled to Timbuktu and to Moscow and to New York for a concert only because she took it global. Palghat Maniyar, Mridangam is what it's today because Palghat Maniyar gave it that positioning. G.N. Balasubramaniam, complete renaissance of style. A style of music that people thought never existed. And to the extent that even today people are influenced. Shammuguri Srinivasaya's influence is like widespread. From a great guru, a person who tuned music, incredible performer, a person who influenced the music field as a whole. So his contribution is like a huge bandwidth. Then you look at Rajaratnam Pillai. Nadaswaram was completely revived because of him. Same to the flute. If Mali wasn't there, you won't have flute being played the way it is being played today. So if you look at a common thread, you find that their impact is so everlasting that it's even felt today. I think that would be the common thread why these seven go together. Oh, it's huge. I mean, if you talk about the book, for example, the amount of work that went into doing the book, as you know, Bombay Jayashree, myself, and we had a third person with us called Maithili Chandrasekhar. She was a person who knew nothing about Carnatic music, zero. And that was the idea. We wanted somebody with us who didn't know any Carnatic music, because when we write it, then it will also be, the person who doesn't know Carnatic music can also read it. So when we sat and did the book, right from writing the text, thrashing every word, can we use this word, can we use that word, getting the text together, then getting the images together. We had 25 to 26 sources. We had a collection of over 1,500 images, out of which we had to decide 150 images. Just choosing the images. How do you design it? We had a great designer called Deepa Kamath who designed it for us. How do we design it? So we sat through that. So it was a work of almost 1 year post writing the text. So we had the text ready around February, March of 2006. The text was there. Actually, the text was written in 2001. Nobody knows that. But we wrote the text in 2001. We went to publishers to publish it. Nobody said they would do it. And they said they will do it like one small book with all the text, no photographs. So we actually said, we won't go to you. So we kept quiet. And suddenly in 2006, one day Jayashree called me and said, we are doing it this year. So I said, fine, let's do it. So we then started Matrika and said, we will publish it ourselves. We don't need anybody to do it. So we were lucky that we had so much support from the families of the musicians, from corporate houses who were willing to financially help us, because the kind of book we brought out is not cheap to produce. We printed it in one of the best presses in Asia, one of the best in the world, called Pragati in Hyderabad. He's top of the line. And the designer was, again, she was top of the line. So we said, as far as quality goes, nothing can be compromised, nothing, because we are celebrating a great art form and it can only be celebrated in this form. So there was huge amount of work, and imagine we were all performing Carnatic music concerts in between all this. So it was a lot of effort, but I think worth every minute. An album is also not very easy. There is a lot of, if it is a topic-oriented album, there's a lot of preparatory work on what compositions to choose. Why, they have to be appropriate. They have to have there has to be variety. So it's a lot of prep work before learning the compositions, making sure you know every nuance, like learning any composition. Then in the studio, your voice has to be in good shape, making sure that the delivery is good, making sure the balancing is fine, so it's a lot of work. And then there's post-production, of course, that we don't take care of, the artist, that the producing company does. But that's also a lot of work. You master the CD, then you make sure that the design for the cover. So it's a lot of effort and work for an album or a book. I think I've been very lucky. As far as being the youngest, again, it's just a question of luck. I don't think anything else works in my favor. I think performing with some of the greats. I've had the chance of, I could say that I performed with almost all the great Mridangam artists that we have in South India today. And I think it's an experience by itself. And what has been the most common thing I've found in all of them is the sheer dedication to music. Dedication to a concert, dedication to wanting to perform the best every time you're on stage. There's no question, oh, this is just a small concert in some temple near, so this can be casual, but this is a concert in Music Academy. No, no, no. Every concert is as important. It's not got to do with where it is and how much money you're getting. Those two things are not important. You could sing a concert with, you may get tons of money. You may sing another concert which may be free. It doesn't matter. A concert means that discipline and that respect to the art and that dedication to do the best. I think that is something to be seen from all these greats, whether it is Sri Palghat Raghu sir, whether it is Sri T.K. Murthy sir, Umyal Parameshwaraman sir, Trichy Shankaran sir, or anybody else. I mean, I can just go on and on, Sri Guru Karakudi Mani, or so many, Kamalakar Rao. All these are artists who have performed for almost 7-8 generations of musicians. Vellur Rambhadran sir. So, but every concert, they have the same approach of honesty and dedication and determination. I think that is a very, very essential quality that I hope that every generation of musicians have. Because I find that, I'm not very old, I know, but I still find that a sense of casualness is the biggest bane that I see in the next generation of musicians. A sense of casualness as far as the stage is concerned. I think a lot of genuine effort was taken by a lot of Hindustani musicians to promote Hindustani music in the West, especially Ravi Shankar. Sri Ravi Shankar Pandji did so much for promoting Hindustani music in the West, especially Europe. So I think that was the reason why Hindustani music had a kind of a advantage over Carnatic music in the past in terms of popularity. And I think it's changing now. I think it's changing now in the sense you find so many Carnatic musicians traveling to Europe, traveling all over the world, whether it is Europe or UK or America or Middle East or Southeast Asia, Australia. So I think things have changed now, and I think that's because musicians are also taking more effort to promote Carnatic music in these countries. I think you can't just sit in your house and say, oh, there's nobody promoting. I think it's not a question of me or X or Y, it's a question of the art. We have to showcase Carnatic music as a global classical art form. I think that's important. I think as children we absorb things the best. I mean, whether it is mathematics or whether it's music or whether it's art and culture, it's the same. So I think it's very important that music and art and culture and a taste for the aesthetics of music dance is put into a child at a very young age. People always ask me this question, oh, my child is not interested in music, my child is not interested in the dance, he wants to do this. It doesn't matter, it's a question of exposure. I mean, as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, if you expose a child to Indian arts, Indian culture, at that point of time, he may not think it's important, or she may not think, the teenage, they may think it's the most boring thing they could be exposed to, but that's fine. I believe that when they reach a certain age of maturity, maybe 27, 28, 30, when everything else in life is for them settled, at that point of time, these kind of interests somehow come back. And I've seen this happening all over the world. You go to England, you go to America, and you'll see that a lot of these people, young people, 30-year-old people who are interested in music or dance, are people at some point of time when they were 6, 7 or 10, learned a little music, or their sisters learned music, or the radio was playing every day. So these things are very important and essential. I mean, just to take an example, I'll take Kerala as a classic example for that. I've always traveled a lot in Kerala. I've traveled a lot of concerts, not just in big cities, but in small towns, small villages, in temples, and wondered why there's so much interest in all this in Kerala. And I think the main reason being is temple concerts. Now, the temple is not just a religious monument. It's not just for prayer. If it was, you could have just had a small place and everybody could pray. But I think it was a hub for culture and art. and of course economics at some point of time. But culture and art was very important. So if you just think of a child who's 2 or 3 or 4 exposed to Kathakali, exposed to Panchavadyam, exposed to music. So these things are somehow, the aesthetics of that is already ingrained in your mind. So when you grow older, it's easier for you to absorb these things. The obvious essentials, if you want to take anything as a profession, whether it's music or being a doctor or being an engineer, is hard work and dedication. There's one thing I'd like to say. There's always a question that's asked, not just to me. It just happened even now. I went to Pune for a Speakmaker convention, and there was a press conference, not only with me, but a lot of Hindustani musicians. Shubham Mudgalji was there. Devu Chaudhary ji was there. Many people were there. And the question was about people wanting to become Carnatic musicians in 3 years or Hindustani musicians 3 years. I don't know why people ask this question, because I think it's a very stupid question. Because if you want to become an MBBS doctor, you're willing to work for 5 years, is it? Okay. And then FRCS another 3 years or whatever. Then nobody asks the question, or why can't I be a surgeon in 2 years and go and do an operation? But if you want to be a Carnatic musician, you have to do it like a magic. I mean, it's as if we are playing around on stage. I mean, this is hard work. It's not easy. So if anybody asks me that question again, I'm going to, I think, really lose my cool. Because I think it's an insult to the art. By asking this question, you're trying to say that it's something easy. It's not something easy. It's something that you have to dedicate your life to, like anything else. So I think that dedication and that willingness to be there for long and say, I will work hard and first learn the art well, that has to be there. As far as the people who want to take art as an art form, it's not easy. It's much harder than any other field. Basically, if you're looking for financial stability, it comes very much later. In the beginning, you have to think of it not as financial at all. It's just exposure. So I would say, if you come from not from a financially strong background, if you come from something like that, I would say you keep some backup with you for some time. At least for some time, till you know that your position is secure to a certain extent. If you come from a very financially sound background, you can take the risk of jumping into it. You see, your sustenance in the field depends on people. And you never know how a person is going to react. So you have to, if you don't come from financial strength, hold on to something. Do your graduation, hold on to something for some time. Then you yourself will know when you can actually say, now is the time, take a break, music is my life. But if you come from a financially strong background, I would say, try it out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you can take that chance. So you have to be careful on how you position yourself. My only request to performing young people is, please don't be casual. Please don't be casual. Music is not something to be casual about. It's something to be very serious about. And irrespective of whether you like somebody's music or not, if somebody is performing for 30 years, there is some quality in that person. You have to respect it. I may not like certain music. Of course, I have tastes and dislikes. But I don't have disrespect. I think that's another thing we should remember. See, the greatest, I still remember in the early 90s, when we were all part of ISCM. At that time, those were the days of the cassettes, not even CDs. And I remember one cassette of some ragam sung by, say, a Shammugudi Mama or a GN Sir, would be like circulated among all of us. Have you heard this Todi by so and so, Rajaratnam Pillai? No. Okay, it'll be in one person's house, then goes to another person, and we're all musicians. We're all performing musicians today. So personally, my inspiration has been almost a generation of, especially musicians of the 40s. Arekudi Ramanujayengar, my guru Shamaguri Srinivasayar, of course, G.N. Balasubramaniam, M.S. Subbalakshmi, D.K. Pattamal, Madurai Maniyar. I can just go on and on. M.D. Ramanathan, Ramanath, Krishna. I think we've all heard so much of their music, of course, only in a recorded form, and it's a great inspiration, their music for us. And I love, one of my favorites, of course, is Brinda Mukta. I'm a great fan of T. Brinda and T. Mukta's music, and draw a lot of inspiration from their kind of style. As far as albums go, I've just actually released an album. I think it's just coming into the market. It's called Adbhuta. It's released by Music Today. It's a very interesting album. It's a collection of compositions that are very widely used in dance. So it's a very different album than the usual. So it has compositions that you could have seen in dance very often. So it's an interesting collection of kritis, of varnam, of a tilana, of a padam, of a javali, of a shabdam. So it's an interesting concept. It's come out quite nice. I think like any guy who's grown up in India, most guys love cricket, and cricket has always been a craze. Right from childhood, I've loved cricket. I played a little cricket in school, but not like I said, there was no competitive cricket in our school, so there was only cricket for fun. So I played some cricket, but cricket is a passion, a big time passion. So much a passion that I actually went to the West Indies for the World Cup. So I love cricket. I watch a lot of cricket and watch a lot of matches live. Tennis has been something I played more of actually. I played more tennis than cricket. Unfortunately, I don't have the time nowadays to play more tennis. I wish I did. I wish I traveled less so I could play more tennis. As far as my wife is concerned, she is a very, very front-ranking Carnatic musician. Her name is Sangeeta Shivkumar, and she's been performing for many, many years. I think even before me, actually. So she was brought up in Ernakulam. So she's a Kerala girl of sorts. She moved to Chennai around the late 80s, basically for Carnatic music. And she learned from Charamati Ramachandran. So we met through the music field, of course. And very happy that we have found music as a big connection in our lives as being musicians of two different styles, so but very interesting anyway. We have two daughters, Arya and Ananta. Our first daughter is, as she says, I must specifically say that she's 7.5 and not 7. And my second one is 4.5 and not 4. So Arya and Ananta are two daughters, and whether they come into music or not is something we'll wait and watch. But as long as they have taste and the aesthetics of art and culture, I think both Sangeeta and I are more than happy. That's about our lives. Well, that's not the most easy thing to do. I have been, for example, in Kerala now from 12th of this month. I went to Chennai for half a day on the 15th, and I flew back on 16th morning. So spending time with children, I hope I had more time. I don't, unfortunately. So if my wife is also traveling, we try to see that one of us is at home. But my travel schedules have been a little crazy over the last couple of years, so spending time has been difficult. Luckily they are quite understanding, but I know that they are very upset inside, but they don't really express it, like they don't really say it. They are still a little young, I guess, but it's difficult. It's not easy to do. Hi, I'm TM Krishna. You're watching me on webindia123.com. Keep listening to great music, enjoy it, and keep it part of your life. Thank you very much.